Right, first of all, we have a dashboard and the dashboard's looking pretty good. I just want to show you what can happen. So if I go into low milk here, this will give me obviously cows that we've got any problems. So we've got the milk meter yields coming up. I'll be able to see which cows have got a problem and what those issues are. Then what we can do is we can look here. So cow number 207, the average of the last 21 recordings was 13. The last recording was only 5 kilos. So that's a cow that I have a problem with. So what I wanted to show you really was how easy it is just to move the cow off the feed calculation and to put her onto an individual feed. So we'll go to the cow record first, type in the cow number 207. Okay, we go to feed in here. And then bottom left, you can see at the moment, she's actually on the feed calculation, but we're going to say this cow's cake sick or whatever. So we just want to really reduce the concentrate. So we go to edit. Okay, I could put her onto an individual curve, but on this one, I'm going to make it nice and straightforward. She's going to go onto an individual allocation. I then need to go across to here, feed amount, and I'm going to say the most I want this cow to get is 2 kilos. So 207 now, she's no longer on the feed allocation. She's on an individual allocation of just 2 kilos. And then obviously when she's better, you can then take her off, reverse the procedure, put her back onto the feed calculation, and away you go. So that's how easy it is to take cows out of the feed calculation. Okay, then what I wanted to do was just show you when we change the M+ table, what that can look like. So if we go into feeding setup, and for those of you that were there this morning, the increase, decrease, this is, I'll just show very, very quickly. This is where we can go in and we can actually change the feeding when the cow first calves. So we have the periods down the left-hand side, and then we have the levels of concentrate down here. So what we're saying here for the first calvers, for the first 7 days, take them from 3 to 5. The next 7, 5 to 6. The next 7 after that, keep them fixed on 6. So these periods here, you can adjust. And here we have basically 21 days before the expected drying off, we're going to reduce the concentrate. So as I told you this morning, whenever you change it, please change go to the graph. Once you change the figures into the grid, go back onto the graph. Okay, so I'm happy with that. But what I want to do now is we've changed the outside ration for the low yielders. So we need to make a change on that. So edit. Next. Okay, this is the base ration. So we're actually feeding a little bit more now off the outside ration. So I'm going to put that from 15 to 18 and up to 18 here. Okay, again, when you change these figures, graph it. For those of you that weren't there this morning, what this means is that we're saying the outside ration is good for 15 kilos plus maintenance for the first calvers. 18 for the second calvers, 18 for the cows. And then I'm saying, right, for the next 30 kilos of milk the cow produces, so that's from 15 to 45. That's where you've got that figure there. If I change it here to 20, you'll see what effect that has. It goes to 35. So that's all this means. 15 kilos, figure in bracket 45, the feed rate is 0.4. So now I've changed it. It was 12 and 15 and 15. That's now gone up to 15, 18 and 18. Again, when you make a change on the M+ table, just graph it, because if you put something stupid in, you'll be able to see it straight away that it's wrong. So finish, and now I've adjusted that M+ table for the low yielders. So now we're going to go across into calculated feed. Here are my groups. Again, if I wanted to change the ration, the M+ ration for the low yielders, I click in here. This is where I have the option to select a new M+ table, or I could put the lows and the mids onto the same M+ table, but we're going to go with the lows. So we say that's fine. Calculate it. Okay. So all I'm going to do now is just hit calculate. Okay. What it then does, it comes up and we're saying here, the minimum that we're going to feed for the lows is 0. But the maximum I can feed is 8 for the cows and 6 for the heifers. you can change that. You can make it whatever it was. So this is like, whatever figure you put in the M plus, I put in 30 at 0.4. So in theory, that could be feeding up to 12 kilos. But it's at this point, we're actually saying, no, that's the maximum that they can get. 8 kilos for the cows, 6 for the heifers. If you want to put a minimum in, for whatever reason, then yeah, you can do that. And we will then send that feed across to the process system. This figure here is important. As I explained this morning, when the cow's on the increase-decrease phase, so this is like the first 3 weeks after she's calved, the feed is predetermined. On day 22, when we're feeding based on milk yield, we don't want to drop that concentrate if her production level is low. So we take it from example 6 kilos to 4 just overnight. We don't want to do that. So if I put a figure in of 0.2, that means the next day she'll be fed 5.8, 5.6, 5.4, 5.2, and so on. So that's under your control. And then again, the most the concentrate can go up. So I'm happy with that. Those levels are fine. And we go through to finish. Okay, so reading across, what we've actually got going on here is cow number 17. She's a second lactation animal, 231 days in milk. I can tell that she's pregnant. She's been pregnant 156 days. FPCM, that stands for fat and protein corrected milk. Now in settings, which we covered this morning, generally the default setting that will be turned off, and we just go with the 7-day milk meter yield. If you want to change that, I think that's something to discuss with your nutritionist, and please phone the help desk and we can show you how to do that. But generally you'll be feeding based on a 7-day milk meter yield. Now what's actually happened here is I've changed the M plus table. So we were running at 12, 15, and 15. I've upped that now to 15 as a base ration, 18 and 18. So the advice yesterday for concentrate was 5.1, but we can see now it's feeding 7.2. So what the program's actually saying is, okay, based on milk yield, what I want to be feeding is that amount there, 1294. That's the total amount of concentrate the M plus calculation is coming out with for 168 cows, averaging 35.5 kilos of milk. So then the question is, okay, why is it feeding 7.2 when the program's calculating 5.1? Well, the reason is we had that setting in there. The most the concentrate can fall is 0.2. So then tomorrow, when it recalculates, should be down to 7. The next day, 6.8, and so on. So when you make a change to the M plus, that maximum reduction and maximum increase figure is really important. And you can always check what it is, because sometimes it's a bit confusing. You think, where's the figure coming from? Well, if you just put the cursor over it, you can see that we said the most you'll fall by is 0.2. So that's kind of there as a safety net, really. If we just scroll down a little bit further and we go down to 207, so this was the cow that we picked out because we could see she had a big problem with her milk production. So we had the average of 21 days and she was giving almost half of that. So I just used that. She could have kicked the unit off, of course, but I just did it as an example. So what we've done here is her milk yield for a 7-day average is still really good. It wants to feed 9.6, but going into the cow record, I took her off the feed calculation. And as you can see here with that comment DEV, she's now on an individual allocation. Now this cow will stay on that. So just be careful. When you put the cow onto an individual allocation, she will stay on there unless you use, well, yeah, she will do. If you put it using an individual allocation, that's what will happen. So I think it's a good thing. It's just a good routine that once a week you should just go through and check this. You can actually sort based on comments. And what that will do is it will show you essentially any cows where we've got a figure and something's there. You see there, these are cows in an increase. These are all the cows in a decrease phase. So they're coming close to drying off. And there's that one individual cow there that's on the individual allocation. So by all means, put them on, but on a Friday or whatever day of the week, just once a week, just check it to make sure that you're happy. And just to kind of finish, just to explain the figures at the bottom, in the low yielders, I have 168 cows. The average 7-day milk meter yield is 35.5. The M plus system wants to calculate this, 1294. We're actually feeding 853.9. The reason for that is, as you can see here, we have some cows, production still high, wants to feed 7.6, feeding 0, because they're due to be dried off. So they're in that decrease phase coming down. So there's always an explanation why these two figures differ. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to say, yes, I'm happy with that. I'm going to save the changes. It will then ask me, do we want to send that across to a process system? And I'm going to say no in this case. Okay, one other thing I just wanted to touch on, because this is in feed calculation, we have something called the silo indicator. And I'm really pleased that now when I'm logging on and doing support, I see a lot of you have now got this set up on the dashboard. Now this will only work if we receive feed intake from your process computer. So just like the feed calculation, where we're reading the milk meter yields, we need to be receiving that information. Most of the processors, we do actually get that. There's a few that we don't, and if you set it up and it's not working, phone us and we can explain the reason why. But for those of you that do receive feed intake from your process system, I think it's just a really good thing to do. If we go to new, I go to here, I select the type of feed. Well, I already know it's feed A, so that's good. So we can see here I've set it up. What I then need to do is just to go into edit and just give it some more information. So I'll say the capacity of the bin is 15 tons. At the moment we have 7.5, and then the minimum content is, let's say, 3,000. So when we get down to 3 tons in the bin, we then want the system to give us a warning. So you set that up in Silo Indicator, go to close it, you go back to your dashboard, and then of course nothing appears. So what you need to do is to tell the dashboard that you now want to use this. So as ever with Uniform, a little cog, select that, just go down to here, and you'll see Silo Indicator, say okay, and you'll see then the system is now loading it. And what will happen is it will then show the little bin. It'll show when we get down to a certain level, what the warning is. And if for any reason that concentrate when you put it in is not actually coming down, then just call the help desk and we'll do our best to figure out what's going on there. Okay, those are really I've actually gone longer than I meant to, but those were the points that I wanted to cover, just to show you when you change an M+, what the effects are, how we put a cow off feed calculation onto an individual feed, and again, how you can put it back. And then here we see the silo indicator just sitting there.